Thank you, Nicola. Just listening to Nicola throw the Greek internet under the bus. That's a grand tradition going back to 332 BC when Alexander the Great did the same. I guess I'm wearing my hat of the Canadian Open Neuroscience Platform, and it's a joy to be at this meeting. We supported NeuroLibre 7 years ago, and had no idea it was going to grow the way that it has. So it's wonderful to see one's children grow and outstrip the parents. So congratulations to all of the NeuroLibre people, Nicola, Pierre Lune, Aga, and everybody else. I think it's remarkable, this meeting. So what am I going to talk about? Well, first of all, the Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. We live in interesting times. In the last year, we've seen the NeuroImage, the entire editorial board of NeuroImage resign en masse as a protest against carrying charges for publication. This is quite a stunning development. Just recently, on the right there, we've seen the launch of a lawsuit led by Lucina Udin as an antitrust lawsuit. Now, I don't wish to take sides here, but this is the climate in which we suddenly find ourselves. So the rise of NeuroLibre is extremely appropriate at this moment. What are we going to do with this? And then we've also seen, just in the last few months, the UK Biobank pulled the rug out from a lot of initiatives around the world which were using this open science data to essentially have people move onto the UK Biobank's RAP portal, which disenfranchises a lot of scientists around the world for the time being, at the very least, as they have to move off existing well-established platforms to take advantage of the new RAP platform, which at this moment is not as technically accomplished as many initiatives already out there. So we do live in highly volatile times for the whole prospect of open science and its carriage. Now, this morning we talked almost exclusively about NeuroLibre. It falls to me to just give you a little bit of background about the context in which NeuroLibre has been growing in the Montreal scene. Try this. Yes. I hope Crystal Van Hoof is here because she has a thing about logos. So I always make a slide with as many logos as I can dream up. But this does, I think, help to situate NeuroLibre in context. What we've been developing within the Montreal scene for some time now is this environment. You've heard about NeuroLibre. It's a publishing platform, but it's complemented by Loris and CBrain, which I will talk about briefly. And those underpin many initiatives: Healthy Brains, Healthy Lives, the Canadian Open Neuroscience Platform, the EEG-Net, National EEG Network, and so on. And sitting on top of that, taking advantage of all this infrastructure, is something that we call the Global Brain Consortium. And I will go very quickly through this landscape to give you a sense of, I think, the context within which NeuroLibre finds itself and takes advantage of a lot of these resources. Healthy Brains, Healthy Lives. This is an initiative at McGill. It's a three-ring circus. It has 240 funded PIs, over 1,000 highly qualified personnel. It was a $100 million initiative 7 years ago, so that's a massive enterprise. Made up of 4 themes. The important theme for this meeting is the cross-cutting theme 1 on neuroinformatics and computational modeling. That supports 3 application domains in neurodegeneration, brain plasticity, and neuroscience and brain health, which is essentially psychiatry by another name. So how do you support all of that? Well, we had to develop a comprehensive data management platform, taking advantage of a number of these different capabilities. I don't think we foresaw the open publishing side of things grow as it has. So you'll forgive me if this slide just captures the major elements of the infrastructure that supports HBHL, Healthy Brains, Healthy Lives. On the left, you have the LORIS platform, which supports multimodal data, imaging, genetics and epigenetics, behavioral clinical information, more latterly biospecimens, I'll get into that shortly, and electrophysiology. That's all the data being organized across multi-sites, multi-time points, and multimodality. On the right is CBrain, which is the portal to high-performance computing, which I mentioned. One of the things that we did with HBHL was to take the entirety of the UK Biobank data and make this available to our 240 PIs in HBHL. This was I believe this was the first time that the UK Biobank had made all the UK Biobank data available to a group. Previously, they had essentially gave you a small amount of the data in response to a targeted hypothesis, which doesn't scale. So we asked them for all the data, we'd make it available to all of our users. And so we took on that role. CBrain, it's a portal to high performance computing and cloud services, initially across Canada, but more latterly it includes international sites in the US, the Exceed network, and platforms like Surfsera in the Netherlands and eBrains. CBrain at this point is it supports about 1,800 users in about 32 countries globally. So we certainly would be hoping to add more from this lecture. Juntendo University would be an obvious addition to the CBrain international network. CBrain at this point supports 160 tools, workflows, containerized workflows of various kinds, as you've seen here. In most recent editions are on the top right, the genomics, transcriptomics, workflows like the cell ranger suite and the methylation pipeline suite. But as you can see, there's a full range of containerized workflows running on CBrain. Those can be launched from anywhere in the world on the platforms that I just showed you. CBrain, for instance, is available as a link on the Open Neuro data set. You see that arrow there pointing to CBrain. So we can process Open Neuro data sets on CBrain. All of this is written up and published extensively, and these are open source software tools on GitHub. This infrastructure supports many Canadian networks. I'll mention a couple of them as I go forward. I've already talked about Healthy Brains for Healthy Lives, but you'll see others, and I will make a brief mention of some of these. EEGNet, for instance, as I said, is an open data platform for specifically the consolidation, analysis, and dissemination of EEG data across Canada. You've heard this morning from Rachel Harding about the Canadian Open Neuroscience Platform in Extenso. Just to summarize, it's a platform which allows us to share tools and data openly, and indeed not just those which are being hosted on the CONP servers, but also get access through Data Lab to servers for data that run on Open Neuro. It has training mechanisms. Most importantly, I think it also has a strong ethics and data governance component led originally by Bart and Noppers, but now with Alex Bernier. And this is a growing issue for all of open science as we have the rise of data privacy frameworks, particularly in Europe with things like GDPR, which is antithetical to the idea of open science. And we have a lot of work to do to try and reconcile these two essentially competing perspectives on open science. As I said, the CONP portal provides tools and data to the community. We've heard about NeuroLibre. I'm certainly not going to dwell on this one since you're hearing about it in much more detail by people better placed than me to describe NeuroLibre. But it's a CONP deliverable, if you will. These are some of the publications describing the ethics, the technology, and the overarching vision of the CONP. CBIG. CBIG is a relatively new arrival in the last couple of years. It's the MNI's Clinical Biospecimen Imaging and Genetic, or CBIG, Biospecimen Repository. Now, this makes available all that range of biospecimens I list on the right, most notably things like iPSCs and PBMCs. All of this is underpinned by the LORIS framework. At this point, CBIG provides 80,000 tissue samples from 4,000 patients. It's the largest biorepository in existence as an open biorepository, and it has over 100 collaborations in the academic and the commercial sector. There are many international initiatives which are taking advantage of this infrastructure. I'll mention only a couple of them. HIBAL. HIBAL stands for the Helmholtz International Big Brain and Analytics and Learning Laboratory. That's my major contribution, a useless acronym. And this was built around the big brain data set that we published in 2013. We made that available openly in 2013, and over 25,000 downloads have taken place of the big brain data set over the last decade. And this is the HIBAL is essentially expansion of that initiative to explore the use of AI and high performance computing in service of neuroscience. So there are over 120 papers have come out of the HIBAL initiative so far. And just in terms of eye candy, this is the big brain data set. And a number I like to quote, the resolution of this data set is 20 microns in each of 3 dimensions. That's 50 times smaller than a typical MRI volume at 1 millimeter in 3 dimensions. So that means that it is 50 times 50 times 50 times smaller for a voxel. In other words, 125,000. So this data set is equivalent to 125,000 MRI volumes, and one can explore this data in real time using the infrastructure, the visualization tools that we built. One of the components of HIBAL is the international alignment of infrastructures in North America. I've talked about LORIS and CBrain and CONP. In Europe, the equivalents are things like the eBrains framework, as well as the Phoenix and European HPC initiatives. When we started this, there were the problems of alignment across the Atlantic, different tool sets and security protocols, incompatible data standards, non-interoperable HPC environments. Essentially, all of that has been addressed within Work Package 4 of HIBAL to allow harmonization of authorization, transfer applications and tools, and interoperable HPC systems. So at this point, you can analyze, you can have data resident on one side of the Atlantic and processed in the other. So you bring compute to the data rather than data to compute, and this has major ramifications for the GDPR regulations on movement of data. Last thing I'll talk about is the Global Brain Consortium that sits on top of a lot of this infrastructure. The Global Brain Consortium, what is it? It's an organization for democratization of brain mapping practices in low and middle income countries. The initial premise is to start with EEG because EEG is inexpensive for low and middle income countries. They don't have to spend an arm and a leg buying an MRI scanner, or even worse, a PET scanner. So a lot of work can be done with EEG. It also has the advantage of having the highest temporal resolution. So the GBC's project goals are to increase access for the LMICs, to foster collaborative science, to democratize the whole process of science such that people in low and middle income countries are not just providing their data up the line, and the next time they see it is when it's published in Science by a Western lab. This allows them to get access not only to their own data, but other open data sets that they can process using, for instance, CBrain workflow mediated workflows. then the application of these tools to disease, disorder discovery, and mental health. The GBC has the steering committee, myself and the force of nature, otherwise known as Pedro Valdez Sosa, who is both a brilliant mathematician and EEG scientist, as well as a global advocate for low and middle income countries and democratization. He said a number of other well-known criminals who are part of the steering committee of the GBC. The projects that are currently underway to various degrees within the GBC include the global EEG norms, which is a methodological challenge to harmonize EEG studies globally. And you also have studies in early adversity, dementia, COVID, Parkinson's disease, and child brain development. An example of the kinds of workflows that are launched on CBrain include the harmonized EEG toolbox from Jorge Bosch-Bayard, who's one of a longtime colleague of Pedro and myself.
Alan, could you speak up a little more to the people in the back?
I thought I was shouting. Okay. All right. So other elements that are feeding into the Global Brain Consortium initiative include the Born in Bradford initiative by Faisal Mushtaq in Leeds in northern UK. This is looking at now 24,000 kids who are children of immigrants to the UK who face special challenges, societal and integration. And this is a study of their resilience in child brain development. Michael Milham leads the Child Mind Institute's Global Center for Child and Adolescent Mental Health, and there's a very large study that's looking at child brain health globally, that we have been building linkages between the CMI MindLogger environment and the LORIS environment here, which will provide front end and back end to these kinds of initiatives. We recently concluded an agreement with the Congress, the International Federation of Clinical Neurophysiology, to disseminate and develop EEG methods for early dementia based on the infrastructure I've just been describing. So that was a very rapid Cook's tour of a whole series of interlocking initiatives that are taking advantage of infrastructures which also underpin NeuroLibre. The challenge that we have when we're describing the Global Brain Consortium is, where do we publish this? What journal will take this kinds of large scale, almost philosophical paper and scientific initiative to democratize science globally? I think NeuroLibre is a perfect example of a journal which meets that need. So I'm delighted to have I think a small role in the rise and the growth of NeuroLibre. And I'd like to now hand it over to my partner in crime, Nicholas Dickoff.